is Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam wants to take a huge chunk of your money, and ain't nothing you can do about that. So these are the competitors that you have to worry about. When you look at a budget and you look at what's coming in, all of these people want a portion of that money. So what you have to do is have a communication with your money. Typical interest rate on a house. Let's just say that you got a 5.6% interest rate. Pretty good interest rate? 5.6? $200,000 house, $1,151 a month. The bulk of the $1,151 a month, though, is interest. About 1,000 of that is interest, okay, over 7 years. 30-year fixed mortgage, a person would love to have a loan like that. So with that $200,000 house is real 100% interest. If I asked anybody here and said, hey, I'm going to loan you $200,000 at 100% interest, nobody would take that. I did a thing for Southern a couple years ago with Senator Broom, and it was about predatory lenders is what it was about. And they had lenders at this event. And I asked all the teachers, and I said, if I told you you could get 100% interest rate, okay, on a house, or you can get an annual percentage rate of 9%, who would choose the 100%, and who would choose the 9% annual percentage rate? Every teacher in there chose the 9% interest rate. The 100% was cheaper. Because here is a 5%, which is 100%. So 9% would be almost 200% in interest. You see what I'm saying? The annual percentage rate is just a formula to front-load interest. What I mean by that is what this does is allow them to take the bulk of the money that they're going to earn over the next 30 years in the front of the loan. So in other words, if you have a mortgage, if you pay on that mortgage, a $200,000 mortgage for 7 years, at the end of 7 years, you're going to probably owe still $195,000 on that mortgage. And then what happens is you get some advertisers coming in saying you need to refinance, take some of that money out, right? Or your mortgage company's coming to you, sending you letters saying, hey, won't you refinance, get a lower interest rate. So you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get a lower interest rate, and instead of being $1,100, it's going to be $900 now. And so then you refinance, and guess what? You got 7 more years of interest again. You didn't beat them. They beat you by doing that, and they do it over and over and over. So if you buy a $200,000 house, that's what it'll cost you. Just at 5.62% interest, and that's if you go 30 years and never refinance it. It's going to cost you $414,000 for that mortgage, okay? Now that means 30 years from now, that house is going to have to be worth what? For you to break even, it's going to have to be worth $414,000. Now, they say homes are the biggest and best investment in America. Do you really think that's true? Somebody will buy a $200,000 house and sell it for $300,000, and they paid $414,000 for it. But that's not it. In order to bring home $414,000 in income, you have to give Uncle Sam a portion, income taxes. So in order to earn $414,000 in income, you probably really have to gross about $650,000 in order to buy that home. So if you follow me, you're really paying $600-something thousand for a $200,000 home at that interest rate. That home cost $538,200 in income. That's what that person had to bring home in order to give $414,000. That's scary, isn't it? And very scary when you think about that they do this with cars, trucks, guns, boats, anything that you finance. And it's why living debt-free is the only way to really live. So how do we correct the problem? We correct it by managing the money, using this form to manage the money. I'm going to actually show you an example of a customer. I'm not going to show you their name and everything, but I'm going to show you a customer that came in and was making a healthy income. And we filled the form out. The first part of the form up here at the top is tithing. Tithing, most people have taken my budget or their own budget, and they flip it. What I have it in is a sequence of how money should flow through every household. Tithing is the most important thing and should be the very first thing on the top. If you don't tithe, I'm not going to look down on you. Skip it. I'm not the one to judge you. You'll get judged when you go up there. But if you don't tithe, or you feel you can't afford to tithe, or whatever it is, skip it. The next part is the emergency fund. I want you to also skip that because I got to show you how to build it first. The third part is your housing. You got to have a place to live. And I get people that come to me and they have 30-day lates on their mortgage. If y'all go next door, y'all can get some chairs and bring them in. I get people that come to me with a 30-day late on a mortgage. That's the single worst possible thing you can ever do for credit score, because you're viewed more by your mortgage than anything else. So when they look at you and they look at, if you're not going to pay your mortgage on time, you're not paying anything. So one 30-day late mortgage could plummet you 200 points. Because they just look at that as like, if you ain't going to pay that, you ain't paying anything, okay? So mortgage is one of the most important things. We got to have a place to live. Any 30-day late goes on your credit report. You can be 29 days late on your mortgage, and it's not going to report to your credit bureau. Nobody knows about it, okay? But once you hit 30 days or 31 days, that's it. You just plummet your score down. So it don't matter what improvements you make on credit. If you do that, it just plummets you back down. The next section is utilities: electricity, water, gas, phone, trash, groceries, restaurants. You got car loans. You got gas, which just went up. You got clothing. Okay, so you got to sometimes adjust the figures. Budgeting is not going home and pulling out receipts and trying to figure out how much you're spending to the penny. You know, I raised a 5-year-old by myself, okay? I don't have any time. She wears me out. Everybody who's got kids that age knows what I'm talking about. You know, 24/7. I got no time to sit down and figure out pennies and all that stuff. So the way my budget is set up, if you go to any section, of course, your mortgage or your rent is a set fee, okay? It's a set fee. It doesn't change. But when you get down to electricity, electricity changes every month, doesn't it? One month you might have 150, one month you might have 200. When you set up a budget, you want your electricity to be the worst month of the year, okay? So if the worst month of the year is $200, that's what your budget is, $200 for your electricity. So it's a rounded figure. So I don't have to figure that out. I just have to sit down and figure out what's the most I'm going to spend on that. What's the most I'm going to spend on water? What's the most I'm going to spend on gas and trash and cable, groceries? I'll show people come to me and go, I got a budget. I budget. And I'll say, well, how much money you spend on groceries? And they'll go, well, about $300. Well, if you really have a budget, how could you say about $300? It's got to be a figure. What you got to put here is, what is your maximum figure? What is your maximum figure for restaurants? My grocery budget is $200 and my restaurant budget is $300, because that's one thing I like to do. I like to bring my kids and go out and eat. So I got a $700 a month grocery budget, okay? I can't go over it because I committed to it. If you have a spouse or significant other and you live in the same household, you have to commit to these figures. If one says 400 and the other one says 300, if you say 300, it's not going to be realistic to the one that said 400. So you got to commit to what the money is on each one of the budgets. Clothing. You might buy clothes once a year, okay? But when if you say, oh, well, I'm going to spend $1,200, well, we do that at one time, that's $100 a month. You know, isn't it easier to come up with $100 a month than it is to come up with $1,200 at one time? So everything's broken into a monthly budget. So everything you put here is, how much is all of this going to cost you monthly? What's the maximum, okay? At the top up here, you'll see income. This is take home after taxes, household, okay? So if it's husband and wife, it's what you take home after taxes, household is your income. In the other section over here, spending, we have to do what the budget is in order to get that figure, okay? So that's page one. Page two, if you have insurance being taken out of your check already, it wouldn't be put in this budget because it's already taken out before the check comes home. This is only what you have to pay out of the check that comes home. You'll see here child care, toiletries, hair care. You know, a lot of people think that budgets are about taking things away, and it's not. It's not about taking anything away. It's about setting a maximum figure on everything that you do. So, I've been married before, and I used to get crazy with how much money women could spend on hair, But if I put a budget on it and we both agree to it, I can't ever get mad. And so 70% of marriages now end in divorce are due to finances. And it's because of all the bickering and fighting. You overspend. How can you bicker and fight if you sat down and I said, okay, you agree to spend $100 a month, and I agree that that's okay. And so if you go over $100 a month, I got a reason to be mad. And if you stay under $100 a month, we're not ever going to argue because we agreed. If you look at every area of your household like that, There's no way you could fight as long as you keep below the budget. So you got that. You got child support, school supplies, school tuitions. And you see this one? Blow money. A lot of people don't budget in blow money. All right? You know, in every household, there's a spender and there's a saver. It's always like that. One wants to hoard money and one wants to spend money. And so when you get a budget, it's always the one that wants to hoard the money that likes to do the budget. And so the problem with that is the other one feels controlled. You know, like you ain't giving me no money. When you sit down and you figure out a blow budget, the blow budget becomes their money. And the blow budget is exactly what it says. You can blow it and it doesn't matter. If you have $100 in your pocket on Monday, and at the end of the week I say, what happened to that $100? And you say, I blew it. Okay, well, that's what it was for. But if you have $100 on Monday and it was for something else, at the end of the week I say, what'd you do with it? And you go, I don't know. Well, you're overspending now. Now you're spending money that wasn't yours. So you have to put in a realistic figure of how much you're going to blow. And it could be on cigarettes or drinks or, you know, remember, it's not your restaurant budget. This is just money that you're going to spend. You already have your clothing budget. You know, I don't limit, you know, women want to go out and shop. If y'all like to shop, you set a figure. The problem with not having a figure is if you go shopping and the advertisers have all their sale signs out, all of a sudden you buying all kind of stuff and you don't realize that month you spent $600, you overspent $400 because your budget was $200, but you didn't know because you don't have one. You're just spending. When you have a budget, what I found is that when you have a budget and say it's $200, you may not buy the first thing that comes along. You may do a little bit more window shopping. A matter of fact, when I was married, my wife would have, instead of having her, whatever her budget was, $300 a month to shop and clothes, because she was on a budget first time in her life, I remember the $300 turned into $600, then it turned into $800. It's like she was window shopping, so it was going further and further and further. Instead of buying on impulse, she was thinking, well, wait a minute.